Hello there and welcome to my channel Pixonology. My name is Sophia and this series I'll talk about how light works. I'm sure something like this has happened to you before. You want to take a picture of a person, but as soon as your distance to the model change or the lighting conditions change just a bit, the picture is no longer properly lit. To master light as a beginner, I'll tell you in part 2 why shadows are sometimes harder and sometimes softer, as well as different methods to brighten your image. If you want to know how light behaves, watch part 1 of this series here. Well then, let's get to the bottom of this mystery. Why do some light sources cast such harsh shadows and others do not? Especially in the open air, you ask yourself this question: what is the difference between the light of the sun and the cloud-covered sky? Isn't sunlight actually all around us? Aren't clouds in the sky actually still the same source of light? Okay, let's get to the bottom of this together, shall we? There is usually one of three scenarios happening. First, light comes from a long distance and thus becomes linear. Second, light is scattered and is reflected. Third, light is bundled and directed. Let's look at these with some examples. A typical example of light scenario 1 would be sunlight. Let us assume that it is a sunny day. No cloud is visible far and wide in the sky, so the sun is our only source of light. The sun is actually a scattering light source and huge, but by the time the light rays overcome the distance to Earth, they are already so reduced that they hit us almost linearly. How can you imagine this? Imagine you are standing in front of a wall. In front of you, in a straight line, are a row of people, all armed with balls filled with paint. The people throw one ball after another straight ahead. Some of them will hit you, others will only hit the wall around you. But when you turn around, there is a person-sized outline on the wall behind you, which is not covered with paint. This outline is a shadow. The balls of color are the rays of the sunlight. Let's stay in the same place for lighting scenario 2. Examples of diffused light can be various lamps, but also reflective surfaces. Let's assume that foggy clouds move in to cover the whole sky. I'm not talking about threatening low-hanging thunder and lightning storm clouds, but about these white foggy-looking clouds that force you to wear sunglasses although there is no sunlight to be seen far and wide. These clouds act like a giant brightener. Each point on the cloud that is hit by a sunbeam becomes a small new light source, which then reflects the light in all directions. How will this look in our example? Again, we're standing in front of the wall and in front of us there is again a row of people lined up. But between them and you, there now is kind of a net. If the people now throw their balls again, they are hitting the net and they burst, causing the paint on the other side of the net to splash away in all directions. So not only do the balls hit you head on, but you also get splashed with paint from all the sides. Depending on how dense the cloud cover is, more or less light penetrates and is reflected. This can result in no to very soft shadows. In lighting scenario 3, we are talking about stage lights and lasers. If there are no linear sunbeams, then one has to be generated by you. This can be done in two ways: by bundling by means of lenses or by shading, for example with a so-called barn door on studio lamps, so that no stray light can illuminate the surroundings. Before we continue, if you like my content, please consider subscribing to my channel and leaving a like. It doesn't cost you a thing, but helps me tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. I really appreciate you taking the time. Now back to the video. A handheld flash or a flash integrated into the camera is a single compressed light source. This light source is usually directed at an object that is in its immediate vicinity. The light beams hit the object in a straight line, creating hard or less harsh shadows, depending on the environment and if there are random reflective surfaces next to the object. Handheld flashes are a bit more flexible than integrated flashes because they can be adjusted manually, namely the direction in which they flash and the strength of the flash. For example, if a handheld flash is aimed at a white ceiling, this ceiling will act like our cloud-covered sky and thus evenly illuminate the surroundings, resulting in fewer harsh shadows. But how come a laser stays just as bright and blinding that it can be dangerous for pilots even kilometers in the air? Imagine the light source being a water hose, but instead of a funnel-shaped opening, the opening is extremely narrow. The result is a focused jet of water. The water jet thus shoots out of the hose in an almost linear fashion, causing it to scatter very little and thus not lose intensity even over long distances. So what methods can you use to make your images brighter? There basically are three solutions. Solution 1. Increase the light's output by increasing the light's intensity or by increasing the light sources themselves. Therefore, you turn up the light's power or just add another lamp. If this is not possible, the next step is Solution 2. Bring your light source closer to your object. Therefore, take your candle or lamp and transport them by hand where the model is. But Sophia, you ask, what if the sun or an overhead light is my light source? You can't easily turn them brighter or even move them. Well then, only Solution 3 will help you now. You are going to have to change the camera setting by using a larger aperture, longer shutter speed or higher ISO. All three solutions are regularly used by professional photographers and hobby photographers alike. Sometimes the solution to your problem is simpler than you might think. There is one thing left to do now. Go out and experience everything for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this short introduction to the topic of how light behaves and that you were able to take away some useful information. Next time we will look a little more into the purpose of evoking emotion in landscape and portrait photography. Everything I've talked about or am going to be talking about in the future, I either learned in training, from the experience of other people or colleagues, or simply doing my research. If you don't agree with my point of view, please feel free to do your own research on the matter concerned. Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate you taking the time. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, stay safe. Bye!